Oh, look. Oh, look. I've been impaled. That'll come back later. Um, so, uh, chapter 1088. We get a lot in this chapter. Um, a lot and yet not very much, and a lot of moral dilemmas that are posed in the chapter. So, we'll see. So there's kind of two cover pages shown for this week. For the cover page of the actual manga, we have uh, manga Luffy and the new live action Luffy of Inaki. And Inaki looks great in this. He's got like the little scar under his eye, and he's got the good straw hat and the vest and everything. So he looks great. I'm really excited about the live action One Piece that's supposed to be coming out. I think it's at the end of August. I think that's what the date here says. And I've actually told my mom about it, and like my mom's heard me talk about One Piece a lot. And she knows about some of the characters. She knows who the Straw Hats are. She's seen some of the other movies and stuff like that. Like her and I went to go see Film Red and Stampede and things like that. And I told her that they're doing a live action one, and she goes, "Oh, well, that sounds interesting." And I'm like, "Well, do you think you'd want to watch it with me?" And she's like, "Yeah, I think so." And it's a good way of like introducing her to like kind of the East Blue saga, with her getting like a good chunk of what it's about, as opposed to having her watch all of the episodes that go with it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but my mom does not have the patience to want to watch through over 1,000 episodes of One Piece, even if I skipped over all of like the filler episodes that weren't that good. Or recap episodes or things like that. Even if I skipped over all of those, it still wouldn't be all. It would still take way too long, and we have other stuff that we're watching. And so I really like the cover of what they have here with showing both of them. I'm really excited for the live action. The cover kind of reminded me of a little couple of weeks ago. There was a moment where the Japanese voice actress of Luffy, who has been voicing Luffy from the beginning, um, gave Inaki a straw hat, and like they had this great interaction between the two of them, and they just looked adorable together. And I think he's taller than her in real life, so that's just even more funny. So I like that, and I would like it if they found a way to get like all of the Luffy voice actors. So like that includes Colin Clinkenbeard, who does the English dub of One Piece for Luffy, and then like the Luffy's in a bunch of the other different languages, and like if they could get them all together with like Inaki and then like the Japanese voice actors, just have all of them together for like just one big group shot. That would be kind of fun. Um, and then the cover page for the chapter is clearly it's a big celebration of what's going to be happening in the live action one, and it is the original five Straw Hats: Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Sanji, all in battle positions, and they look like they're dressed for like Arlong Park, because like Zoro's in like the Hawaiian type shirt that he wears, and Nami is in her green and polka dot top and stuff that she wears during Arlong Park. And in the background, we have Shanks and Kobe and Buggy and Kuro and and Mihawk and Arlong. And then there's like one more in the background, but it's hard to tell if that's supposed to be like Don Krieg or if it's supposed to be Smoker. We're not sure. So it's just big getting ready for the big celebration for the live action and stuff like that. And I just really like this one because it's like it's kind of updated style for how you see the Straw Hats, but like in like the updated style versus how they looked originally. Now we get into the chapter 1088, the final lesson. Um, Finals have arrived, people. Oh no. Um, and so the chapter starts with a flashback, and we cut back to a little over 2 years ago at Marineford, the former Marine HQ. So it is currently G1. And we have it that Garp is teaching a lesson, to kind of giving like a lecture to a room full of young new Marines and stuff like that. And like we see Kobe and Helmeppo and a bunch of other ones in there. We don't get names on any of them, but we see a bunch more. And what Garp is doing is he is giving a lecture about like a moral dilemma. And what it is, he's like, lesson one: a baby and an old man are stranded on an island full of fierce beasts. You're on a boat that can hold a maximum of 2 people. What do you do? And Kobe, being the goody two shoes that he is, and I love him for it, he stands up and he's like, I'd get off the boat myself, and that way both the victims could use it to set sail to safety. And Garp is like, wrong! And he throws the chalk at Kobe and everything and calls him a dunce. Dunce hat. And yells at Kobe, and it's like, no, you should abandon the half-dead geezer. And then there's like another Marine in the room with them that I think is also like a high-ranking Marine. I don't think it looks like a she, but I don't think we ever get her name unless I just missed who she is. And she's like, Vice Admiral, what are you saying? And he is like, what? And Garp's yelling at them, well, why the hell did you become Marines? To safeguard the future, right? Well, you should keep that in mind because you all have more ahead of you than some old fossil. Take the baby and live on. I love you, Garp. And then Garp gets like chewed out by the other Marine. And she's like, don't you ever give that lecture that way again. All lives are equal. And then off to the side, and I think it is supposed to be Aokiji who is here because it looks like his hairstyle and stuff, or when he's like wearing his sleep mask and everything, and I can't tell. I think it's supposed to be Aokiji, and Garp says like, but the potential of youth is limitless. So it's kind of like this concept of like, it's a moral dilemma. It is the concept of like, oh well, you can save both of them, but if the old geezer is really sick or whatever, then like how's he supposed to take care of the baby and get to safety? And but then if you're the Marine and you save the baby, then you can get the baby to safety, and you're more likely to be able to get the baby to safety than the old geezer would be, than the old guy would be. So that's kind of where Garp is going with this. Also, it is a little bit of like kind of Garp's just personality coming into play, where he's just like, protecting the future, protecting the possibilities of the future is so much more important. And that is very much what Garp is kind of trying to say here, I think. And, what this is it's posing the moral dilemma. I find myself perched on the horns of a dilemma. And, a lot of people are probably going to make the comparison to the concept of like, the old, riddle of like, well, you have a goat, you have a fox and a chicken and a bag of grain, and you have to get them to the other side of the river, but you can't have the fox and the chicken together or the chicken and the grain together. So you have to figure out the best way to like get them all to the other side of the river. And you only have one boat, and, you can only put one thing in the boat at a time as you take it across the river. So, it's like that whole moral dilemma of, what can you do here and all that kind of stuff. And actually, the moral dilemma I wanted to point it out and compare it to was not actually that. Where that is somewhat applicable here, that's not really like a moral dilemma in that regard. It's like, okay, well, you don't leave the chicken and the fox together, and you don't leave the chicken and the grain together, and it's not that hard. Whereas there's other moral dilemmas and stuff like that. And the one that popped into my head, I am a big fan of the show MASH, which is it was a TV kind of drama comedy that was on CBS for a good like 11 years in the 70s and into the early 80s. And it is about a mobile army surgical hospital unit who are basically doctors and nurses and then enlisted men and women who help. They act as a kind of a triage station, so that way, as and the show itself takes place during the Korean War, but it is basically a commentary on what is going on in the Vietnam War at the time. So it's like it takes place during the 50s. And so there's lots of references and stuff like that to, stuff going on in the 50s, but it is clearly a commentary on the Vietnam War that was going on at the time. And what ends up happening is, throughout the course of the show, the purpose of the show is to do a commentary on that, but like it's also to give you like all these different fun personalities and the doctors and the nurses and all the other characters and stuff. And in the final episode, which is like this 2.5 hour long, for all intents and purposes, television movie, that that when it aired and for a long time after, it held the record as the most watched television anything for like a good 20, 30 years. And I think that record was only broken in the last 10, 15 years by like a Super Bowl or something like that, by like whatever Super Bowl at the time. But like that record stood for a long freaking time for MASH for that. And throughout the course of the whole series, there's other like moral dilemmas that pop up and stuff like that for like choices that the doctors and the nurses have to make for when it comes to like saving one patient over another patient, because one patient can be saved and the other patient is going to die no matter what they do, and stuff like that, which is just hard things for doctors and nurses to have to make that decision about anyway. And in the finale, there is a dilemma that is posed in regards to sacrificing a chicken in order to try to save the lives of a whole bunch of other people on a bus, so that way they're not caught by the enemy. And it's very emotional throughout the course of the episode because it keeps coming back to this moral dilemma that keeps happening. And I'm not going to spoil what it is that actually happens in the scene. I will leave a link in the description to the scene, so if you want, you can go and watch it. Because it's much more impactful. It's much more impactful if you've actually seen a good chunk of the series and then watch the actual movie and see it in the context of the movie. But it's very impactful in the way that it is designed already. And so I will leave that link in the description if you want to go and watch that. I highly recommend it. And I just highly recommend MASH. I do not have any idea what streaming service it is on. Sorry. But that is kind of the moral dilemma that popped into my mind with what Garp is trying to show. In regards to that of like, limitless potential and stuff like that. But, sacrificing the one for the many and stuff like that. And after that, we cut to what would be a few weeks ago on Amazon Lily. And this is during the time frame that, of course, we saw the conflict between Kobe and the Marines and versus, Blackbeard, and I think it was who was there? The drinking guy. I don't care. And Katarina Devon that were there. And on it, we have it explained that Blackbeard is saying, fine, I'll leave, but since I can't have the Emperor, I want a Marine ship and I want a bunch of your men to come with me as hostages, so I know you're not going to attack me while I'm leaving, basically. And so a bunch of the Marines are all tied up and on the ship and everything. And Kobe, because he's Kobe again, he's goody two shoes Kobe, and he's awesome. He stands up and he's like, fine, if you want to have like a bargaining chip, don't take them, take me. Vasco Shot, that was the name I was trying to remember. Sorry. And he's like, fine, if you want a hostage, if you want like safeguards, take me, not my men. And the other Marine that we have there is Yamakaji, who we haven't really seen very much of, but I know a lot of people just don't like him because he's just not all that. He does not seem like a good guy. He's a Marine for the power of being a Marine type of a thing. And Kobe is like, fine, take me instead and release all of them and the battleship and blah, 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 blah. And Blackbeard is a little bit like, well, suit yourself. I mean, you think pretty highly of yourself there, but sure, fine, I'll take you instead. Yamakaji is like slightly hesitant to try to, to not want to let Kobe go, but then like one of the other Marines whispered, it's okay, he's with Sword. So it's like, it's fine that Kobe's doing that. So clearly other people within the Marines know what Sword is. But it's like still hoping it's like a secret organization within the Marines that is known to the other Marines, but is also like, a secret way of like, I don't know, taking down other pirates or something like that. I don't know. And Yamakaji isn't doing anything against Blackbeard at that point in time because he was not given orders by Marine headquarters or by whoever to have permission to go and attack Blackbeard, so that way he's not basically like setting themselves to be up at war with Blackbeard. So Kobe goes with them. And then we cut to present day, just off the coast of Hachinosu, where we have, Garp's marine ship is there, and, we have like the giant hand coming down from, the giant island hand coming down from Valparaiso, coming down and looks like it's getting ready to crush the ship. We see a bunch of the Marines freaking out. Now, one thing I was trying to figure out, because I was looking at these Marines and I'm like, well, I don't know if any of them look familiar or anything like that, because I kind of, one of the thoughts that I had was like, well, I know that Tashigi is on the ship, and we know that Tashigi is, of course, part of G5 with Smoker, and that they had all of the different, G5 G5 Marines that were with them on Punk Hazard, and that they really adored Tashigi anyway. So I was trying to figure out if any of them looked familiar for that, but none of them quite look like it. There's some that maybe look slightly similar, but not quite sure. But like if Tashigi is there, then it would make sense if a couple of them were there as well, even though Tashigi is not a member of Sword. And, they're trying to fire cannonballs at it, but it's not doing anything. And it's like, we need to get off this ship and everything. And, Tashigi is like, prepare to abandon ship and hurry and get everyone above deck, protect the civilians and everything like that. And everything, like all the Marines are rushing to follow her orders. And then we see Kujaku, who technically outranks Tashigi. Because I think Kujaku is a rear admiral, if I remember correctly, and Tashigi is just a captain. Well, just a captain, but she's a captain. And so, Kujaku is just kind of like, oh my god, like this, this giant, hand is coming down to crush them. I think Kujaku, as far as we're aware, Kujaku is the only one on the ship that has a devil fruit power. So she would definitely have to have someone there to help her make sure that she does not sink. But she seems like the person that would be like, okay, even if I start drowning, you guys have to keep the civilians safe. If there is a possibility to save me, then do so, but keep the civilians safe first. Seems like something that she would do. She is Suru's granddaughter, after all. And out of Garp and Sengoku and Suru is the only one that successfully has a child in the Marines that is not having to be undercover. And then we cut back over to Hachinosu itself on the island, where we have, I think it's supposed to be Kobe. Well, we see Garp on the ground, so this is just after he's been knocked over by Aokiji and stuff, and they're all surrounded by pirates, and we see Prince Groose and Kobe and Helmeppo are there, and they're all standing their ground, and I think it's Kobe that is freaking out. He's like, hundreds of Marines and civilians are going to die if that ship, if that hand gets to the ship. And, Helmeppo was like, Vice Admiral, what do we do? And Garp is like, don't worry, guys. You got these. You got this. And they're like, what? And he's like, get ready and I'll give you an opening. And he shouts out, he shouts out to them. It's like, Captain Kobe, you're gonna go for that island monster's hand, and you're gonna smash it to bits. He's like, but Kobe's like, what? That's way too big for me. And then he's just like, Rear Admiral Groose. He's like, Kobe Carver's just like, I'm just skipping over what Kobe said. He's like, nope, this is what's gonna happen. And he's like yelling at Groose, and he's like, Groose, your job is to protect the ship from any falling debris, and then make sure that no one gets in their way. Lieutenant Commander Helmeppo. So that's his orders to the three of them. And they're just like, I don't know if and they're just like all hesitating. And then Garp is like, never second guess yourself in the heat of the moment. And we see this like realization on Kobe's face, and probably something similar happened to like Groose and Helmeppo, and they're just like, yes, sir. And they all jump off. They're all using whatever the shave technique or whatever, so that way they can jump out really, really quickly and head to where they need to be. Kobe and his group starts, running up the side, running up the arm that is reaching out to smash the ship. So they're running up that, and all the pirates are just, calling out to them and everything like that, and teasing them and taunting them and everything. And Groose and Kobe are running, and Helmeppo is kind of back, getting ready to like defend them if he needs to. And Groose is just like, you're packing an explosives to destroy this thing, Kobe? And he's like, Kobe's like, afraid not. I just have to figure something out. And just like, Groose is like, figure something out. That thing is big enough to crush a battleship in its palm. Which, yeah, we're getting a good size comparison here. And we see them like running up the side of the arm to get to the top of the arm so that way they can destroy it. And they're firing. The pirates that are on Hachinosu are like firing off cannonballs, and we see Helmeppo, and he has the flashback of like just a moment ago to make sure that no one gets in their way, and so we see Helmeppo attacking the cannonball and everything, and he's like probably trying to like knock it away to like buy time as much as he can. And Kobe's like, oh no, Helmeppo, and Groose is like, don't look back, you got to keep going, Kobe. And then we see Aokiji has gotten up and he's staring at Garp and he's like, Garp, where exactly do you think you're going with a wound like that? And Garp is kind of like wobbling a little bit. And he's like, nah, it's just a scratch. And it's like, and Aokiji is like, and here I was worrying. Haha. That just proves you're still soft, is I think what Garp says. And he's, jumps off and he's heading, he starts heading his way up the island toward the giant skull. And he's, bashing through pirates on his way and everything. And he gets to the top of the skull, or he gets to the skull, and and he's like, Avala Pizarro is like, oh no, Garp's coming here. And Avala Pizarro, like, within the skull's consciousness is just like, oh, I am gonna be in so much pain in a moment, is like what's going through Avala Pizarro's head at that point. And Garp, rears back his fist, and then he does Galaxy Divide! And he punches into the statue's face, and he, just kind of obliterates half the statue is what it looks like, or at the very least it divides it in half, which, island or not, that's gonna hurt. Island or not, that is going to flip and hurt. Because, just like with Pika, he does feel the pain that is inflicted to the island. So it's like he could feel it when stuff was happening on the island, and now that he is actually being attacked, he can actually feel that pain. So that's going to be a lot of pain for Avala Pizarro. And all the rest of the pirates are just like, oh my god! Like, oh my god, he attacked the skull! And we get this, image of Avala Pizarro, and he's like, like a big giant, bloody nose and everything like that. But he's like, that's not going to stop me. And he's just like, still, reaching his hand out and everything to smash the ship. And we see Kobe and Groose are still running up there. And what is it that Kobe says, or that Groose says? He's like, well, what are you gonna do, Kobe? And Kobe's like, I'm gonna live up to his expectations. And he, he's like gathering his resolve and everything like that. And Avala Pizarro, the skull, we see the skull, and it looks like it's kind of been like cracked like this a little bit, or like that. I guess it would be on the left side. And but Avala Pizarro, for props in his direction, he keeps going. He's still like, you punch me in the face, screw you, I'm still gonna crush your damn ship and stuff. And we cut back to where we have Garp, and I think it's probably like a combination of flashbacks between like Garp and Helmeppo. And because Garp just attacked the skull, and now he's kind of like, he got a lot of, he already had a good amount of damage given to him already. And probably while he was trying to, get his way up to the skull, he was probably also taking hits from like any, bullets or shots or whatever that being fired at him by the other pirates. So he probably got a little bit, dinged up there. And he's up there, and we're having this moment where he's having this flashback where he's talking to Helmeppo, and he's like, hey, Helmeppo, Kobe's been worrying recently. So why does he always always look so beat up, and his arms are constantly bandaged? And we're cutting back and forth between like, stuff that Garp is remembering from a flashback and like what's currently happening. And Kobe is like just getting ready to rear up and, attack the fist and everything. And, in the flashback, Garp is, come up as like, beat up? Oh, you mean his hands and shoulders, right? And we cut to probably what is happening, probably at what would be the previous Marine headquarters, and stuff. And he's like, he told me not to say anything, but, Kobe's been, compared to everyone else here, and we cut back to where we have like Kobe like in a flashback within a flashback talking to Helmeppo, and we see Kobe like bandaging up his fingers and his hands and everything like that. And he's like, compared to everyone else here, I have zero aptitude for combat. That means working 10 times won't cut it. Working 10 times harder won't cut it. I need to work like 100 times or 200 times harder to like get to where everybody is and everything like that. So we see this determination that Kobe is putting in regards to this, because of course we know that like Kobe's dream is become an outstanding Marine, because he wants to protect everyone. He wants to protect as many people as possible, and we've seen that for the way that he acts. And stuff. We saw that back at Shellstown, and we've seen that even at Marineford with him standing up to Akainu and everything. And, you know, we've seen that in, like, even in Film Red, where we get some bits there, and we've seen that even in, you know, Stampede and stuff like that, where it's like, yeah, those events aren't canon, but that's still the way that Kobe would react to those different situations. So we have that to go with. And what ends up happening is, you know, he's still, you know, remember, you know, they're still having the flashback, and he's just like, I gotta keep training or I won't be able to protect anyone. If I can't do that, I'll never be a great Marine. Ouch. So he's like, he's still fixing up his, you know, hands and everything like that. And Garp is just like, you're telling me that after my special training regime, he's sneaking off to work out more? And Helmeppo was like, yeah, he never misses a day. And, you know, he's trying to get Kobe to rest and everything like that in the flashback. And then we cut to where we see one of the battleships, and we see it's like he spent the whole night hitting one of the battleship bags until his fists peel and bleed. And, I mean, with the Diary of Kobe Meppo, calling back way back to the beginning of One Piece, with the Diary of Kobe Meppo, we saw bits of, you know, Kobe and Helmeppo with them training under Garp and stuff like that. We saw some of that more animated in the episodes where they talked about it and stuff. And I'm quite certain that when we get to this point in the anime, there's probably going to be a little bit of like a flashback bit where we see some of that stuff where, you know, it's like Kobe and Helmeppo started off as these skinny little kids that were, you know, the chore boys at Shellstown, and Helmeppo wasn't even doing it by choice. He was just like, well, it's better than, I guess, than being kicked out or whatever. At least I still have a place to sleep. And the double thing of what this chapter is doing, well, I guess it's more than a double thing, but what it's doing with Kobe and Helmeppo is it is showing how far they've come. Because, yes, way back with Helmeppo and Kobe, way back in Shellstown, we have it that, you know, Kobe is very determined to become a Marine. And then after what happens with, for Helmeppo, after he sees what happens with his father, where his father takes him hostage and Kobe tries to save him, or do what he can to save him and everything, that's where Kobe and Helmeppo's friendship really starts. And that's where Helmeppo decides, I am going to become as good of a Marine as I can. And we've seen the dedication that both of them have put into that. We haven't seen too much of it because, you know, the story more focuses around Luffy and the Straw Hats, but even just bits that we've seen of Kobe and Helmeppo over the years throughout the course of the story show them trying to get stronger, and we see that they have gotten stronger. And even, you know, post time skip, they've gotten even so much stronger than they were at, you know, Water 7 and then at, you know, Marineford and everything. So we've seen how much stronger they've gotten in general. And what ends up happening, you know, we get this, you know, Helmeppo started out as this little snot-nosed kid, punk. And, you know, now he's been made so much better, and he's gotten so much more of confidence in himself, but it's rightfully earned confidence. But he still knows that Kobe is better than him. And so, you know, the Kobe here, you know, punching the battleship bags is very much the same thing of what we saw with Garp and Aokiji in the previous chapter. So it is that reference there. And so we cut back to the present where we have Kobe is just like, okay, I've got to give this my all, you know. And, you know, he's just like, he's rearing back his punch. and he's getting ready to punch the giant hand. And we cut to where we see on the ship where we see like, come on, Hibari's like, come on, Captain Kobe, I know you can do this, Kobe senpai and everything. And like, the bunch of the pirates and Evolve Bizarro are just like laughing at Kobe's attempt to try to do this. And Garp is like, come on, kid, I know you can do this. And like we see Kujaku watching and everything. And Kobe is just like, I'm gonna do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do what I can to protect everyone here. That's my job, I am a Marine, it is my job to take care and protect these people. And we have this last little bit where like Kobe is remembering, it's just like, I've got to break through. If I can't, they'll all die, and their blood will be on my hands and everything. So we have that where Kobe is just like, I have to do this. I have to save everybody that's here. And he punches as hard as he can, and he punches through the hand. So it's like an ant fighting against a fist is the comparison that's made. And he's like, honesty impact, and he punches through the giant hand, and it like splits, and it even like splits down the arm. And all the pirates are just like, what? The shocked expression and everything. And even Evolve Bizarro is like, ah! It's like, well, he just got his face punched in by Garp, and then he got his hand broke by Kobe. So, yeah. And, we see Tashigi and Hibari, and they're just like, oh my god! Like, they're all just so impressed and everything like that. And everyone on the Marine ship is just like, go, Kobe, that was amazing. And they're all just like cheering him on and everything. And, Kobe is kind of like falling, and we see Garp, and he's just like laughing and everything like that. Garp laughing with the tears in his eyes. And Helmeppo was just like, that was unbelievable. And everything feels like Helmeppo was like crying and everything. Like, well, Kobe's his best friend, and he just like achieved something amazing. And Prince Groose is just like, I didn't know you were hiding that type of a strength and everything. And then he uses his clay powers to make this clay web that shoots out around the falling debris, so that way it will like catch the debris. And because clay as a texture is a substance that can have a lot of give to it, and I'm quite certain that Prince Groose can probably control how much give and how much tension and stuff like that is within the clay. And he's probably like mastered a good deal of that, and he's probably making it that will be like, it's enough give that it will like prevent the all of the debris from like falling into the ocean and falling on the ship, or at the very least make it have enough resistance that it might bounce back. So it's not going to like fall onto the ship, and so the ship can get away. And also he can probably adjust other things within the clay to make more spot or cover up other spots so the stuff won't fall through. So that's good. And then we see Helmeppo falling, and he like grabs Kobe, and it's just like, that was seriously amazing. And Kobe's just like, I really did it. And then and they're just like, you beat that mountain, you beat that giant hand to like smithereens. It was like punching a mountain and everything like that. So we see that all of them, that the three of them have gotten onto the ship, that they're on Garp's ship now. And Prince Groose saved us and everything, and they're just like all happy and everything. And now we just need Vice Admiral Garp, and we can leave. And they're just like, thanking. And we see Hibari hug Kobe, and he's like, oh, Hibari, you're okay. And she's like, Captain Kobe. And she's just like, everybody like cheering and everything like that. And we see Tashigi has gotten on the transponder snail to call Garp. And Garp has, or called them, excuse me. And Garp is like, the mission was, the mission to rescue Kobe was a success. And she's like, yes, copy that. Please make your way back here so we can leave as soon as possible. And what we see is it actually cuts to where, Garp is saying, like, all troops withdraw from Hachinosu immediately. And they're just like, what? And he's just like, I'll figure something out. In situations like these, the safety of the kids is always the top priority. You really get it. You finally get it, right? He's literally speaking directly to Kobe in this moment, but also to like Helmeppo and Groose and Kujaku and all the other ones that are on the ship, of like, your job as Marines is to protect the future. Your job as Marines is to make sure that the future has the brightest options available. And right now, saving Kobe was the reason for this mission in the first place. Saving Kobe and any of the other captured civilians and stuff like that that were on Hachinosu. all the ones that have been captured slaves and stuff. And your job as Marines is to get them to safety, regardless of what happens to me. And so it's supposed to be the basic breakdown of the lesson he tried giving them, of what he was giving Kobe and Helmeppo at the beginning of the chapter, of this is the way that this is supposed to be. You are supposed to save these people. That is your job, regardless of leaving me behind. And he's like giving the speech and everything, and it's just like, our success here will prove to be a serious blow to pirates everywhere. So keep moving forward and never forget you are all the future of the Marines. And we cut to Hachinosu and we see Garp on the ground with a giant icicle stabbed through his chest. And we see him surrounded. We see Aval Pizarro in the skull just kind of glaring down. We see Sanwo Wolf has gotten out of the water. We see Shiryu. We see Aokiji. We see Vasco shot off to the side and everything. And Garp is kind of like partially frozen to the ground and everything. And below that, we see, Aokiji, the two faces we see at the bottom of the chapter. Before we get to the last panel, or the last two panels, we see Aokiji with this, his face is frozen, but it's like this very solemn looking face. And we see Garp, and he is doing his his laughter and everything, and he's like laughing and smiling and everything like that, which of course, because of the Will of D, is this very indicative thing of like those with the Will of D are smiling before they die. And that they will smile as they die. And we've seen that with all the other ones so far, for the most part. And, that solemn look on Aokiji's face, on Kuzan's face, is very much, a lot of people... I'm going to finish up this and then I'm going to take this off. And a lot of people, including myself, make comparisons to, Snape and Dumbledore and stuff like that with Harry Potter, with like Snape being the double, triple agent, whatever, against Voldemort and everything. And that Aokiji is, playing the long game with Blackbeard, and that he has to try to make it look like he, is the reason that Garp was either dead or captured and everything like that. And so that way it will help Blackbeard have, even put more trust in Aokiji and stuff, the same way that happens with Dumbledore and Voldemort and Snape and everything. With what happens there in Harry Potter. And so there's that. And that very much, that's kind of what I'm hoping for, but there could just be that that Kuzan has just decided, no, I am entirely done with the Marines. I do not care. I do not care about justice anymore. I do not care about any of that. I will do whatever I want, whether or not that means I kill pirates, or I kill Marines, or I kill civilians. I will do whatever I want. And that might just be the case of what's happening. And he could actually have legitimately gone bad, but until we get a better explanation of certain things, I'm going to err on the side of hope that he is wanting to, that it's like part of a long game type of thing to take down Blackbeard at some point in time, and maybe that'll appear at some point, however that happens. On a lighter note, the other image that popped into my head when I saw the Garp with the icicle in his chest was because Disney Girl here, we're gonna mash and Disney in this, and Harry Potter. Disney Girl here, I thought of Frozen, where Olaf gets, the giant icicle in his chest, and he's just like, oh look, I've been impaled. And I can so see Garp doing something very similar to that, with like, oh yeah, I've been impaled. This ain't the first time this has happened. See this scar? It happened before. This one over here too, and just like all this other stuff. And like I can see Garp doing that, but I just find it. I don't. I don't want Aokiji to be bad, just because he's one of the 20 some Marines that former Marines or so that we actually liked. Um, but then we get into the last bit of the chapter where we have these last two scenes. So one of them is in the following day's paper, the legendary hero Vice Admiral Garp would be declared missing in action on Pirate Island after the successful rescue of the young hero Captain Cody. So we don't get a confirmation as to whether or not Garp is dead. Aokiji could very easily freeze Garp and say that, well, I'm keeping him frozen so that way he's less likely to be able to attack if Teach shows up again, and he should stay frozen for a while and it won't kill him. And then, defrost him later or something. Or they just keep Garp trapped, which Garp being Garp, he could choose to just remain captured or not. We'll find out. Oh, I'm quite certain Garp has been captured by pirates before and he managed to find a way to escape. That would very much surprise me if he hadn't done that in the process at some point in time, given his long and storied career. Kind of like, actually, it could be like a similar thing to what happens with like Kaido, when Kaido would get captured by the Marines and then just eat all the food on the ship and then leave again because they couldn't stop him. Garp may have done the same thing to several pirate crews over the year where they think they've captured him. He just breaks out, eats their food, and then swims off. It's Garp. I wouldn't be surprised. And then we cut to the last panel of the chapter, which is, however, another story would also gain the world's attention. The Egghead Incident, where Emperor Straw Hat Luffy would face a siege on the island of the future. And so we see Egghead, and we see all the Marine ships making their way to Egghead. Probably one of them has St. J. Garcia Saturn and Kizaru on it. So those ships are all on their way there. I saw one translation that was like Luffy has like barricaded himself on the island, which implies that Luffy knows that the Marines are coming and that he's trying to like barricade the island to make it prepared for him to be able to fight or to like, outlast the Marines or something like that, which given all the technology on the island probably wouldn't be that hard. But at this point in time, Luffy and the others, I don't think they even know that the Marines are on their way. Let alone a celestial dragon, or let alone a celestial dragon, let alone a Gorosei is on their way with an admiral. I don't think they know about that yet. Shaka was shot, so I don't think he was able to pass on that information. And most of the rest of them have been turned to stone or are captured. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But it does say break next week. So we got like 2 chapters and then we got a break. So hopefully that'll just be a 1-week break. And then we'll probably be back at Egghead Island in the next chapter. So we'll see what happens with that. And we'll see kind of where some of that lands. I don't think Garp is dead. Or at the very least, I think he's not going to die yet. Or we're going to find out that we'll get another flashback later on that will give us a little bit more information as to like what happened after, Kobe and the others escaped and Garp was surrounded by the rest of the Blackbeard pirates. Because if anything, he'll act as a distraction to give them time to get away. So that way they can get to safety on like one of the other Marine bases that's nearby or whatever the G8, no, not G8, whatever the island that Doll was on, that Marine base. So we'll see where that goes. Aokiji, I don't know. I have no idea. That is what I have for this chapter. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.